here we are on Conversations from Drumroll, this week featuring Danny Deutsch.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello, welcome to Geneseo from Rochester.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. So the inspiration for bringing you in here is that you own and opened Abilene, the music venue in Rochester, well known for its roots music, love, jazz fest venue, and just general destination.
Awesome. Yes, that's quite a build-up.
Absolutely. So you opened Abilene about 16 years ago tomorrow.
16 years ago tomorrow. Bought the building, 6 months prior to that, did the renovations, and then waited 6 months for a liquor license. I think the whole process has been expedited at this point for people, but we waited 6 months and got our liquor license, opened March 21st of 2008.
Nice.
A long time.
That is. So in that 16 years, you have been able to have a ton of opportunities with national acts, local acts, again, Jazz Fest venue. So what has the growth process been like over these past 16 years?
We started without, I don't know that the vision was too well formulated. Started as sort of a corner saloon doing some music, and the response was so great that now we do music every night we're open. I mean, and for the past, 10, 12 years, every night that we're open, there's live entertainment. When we started, we had a pool table and a jukebox, and then we'd start doing music in the corner, and we'd cover the pool table with a sheet of plywood, and people could set drinks on it, and the pool game would be over for the night, and we'd pull the plug in the jukebox, and then as more and more people wanted to hear more and more music and liked what we were doing, we got rid of the pool table. We eventually built the stage, got rid of the jukebox, and do live entertainment every night. And generally it's Wednesday through Saturday, but if there's a special show, we'll open on a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday. And yeah.
That must be quite the grind. So how do you keep up with that? That's such an intense production.
Spend a lot of time booking, a lot of time at a computer, talking to agents, emailing. Now have long-term relationships with agents, especially agents that deal in the realm or the format that in the genres that we deal with. We do a lot of, I guess what would be called Americana, a lot of singer-songwriters, a lot of roots music, Zydeco, bluegrass, Cajun, things of that sort. So we have long-standing relationships with those agents and spend a lot of time on the phone and emailing in a little office upstairs from the bar. And and that's all aside from being there each night from sort of open to close. And
exactly.
I guess it's one of those labors of love, they call it.
Yes.
Not always a financial success, but oftentimes very artistic and heartwarming success.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that the way with the arts?
Yes.
But it's a beautiful experience nonetheless, despite the sometimes frustrations.
Yes. I will say there are times when, and it's not always on a night when it's the busiest. It's not always a night when there's a packed crowd. It might be a night with 20 people. And I've said this for years. There are nights when I know in my heart that there's nowhere else on this planet that can be as good. Maybe somewhere, but I'm hearing music.
Maybe drumroll.
Maybe drumroll. And hopefully for both of us. But I'm hearing music and seeing performers just doing such great things. Yeah. I mean, last night we had a show. Was it packed? No, it was miserable conditions out. We're under a boil water advisory in Rochester. I mean, everything that can be against you is right now for a few days. Sleeting out, but we had a local trio of, they played both individually and together, of Jeff Riles, Jed Curran, and Fred Vine, and then with guests Aaron Falzone and Ross Falzone and Aaron Futterer. It was so phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop, and to hear these musicians play original music that is so good. Like I say, not always a financial success, but oftentimes a real artistic success.
Wow. That must be such a rewarding experience to be able to, even though you know that it, like, you're able to rest assured that you have done something beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate
and helped
that.
it come to fruition.
Yeah, and you know, as long as you can pay the bills, and you know, we've made it through. I think the toughest any of us would have expected with the pandemic, and we were pretty strict from day one about demanding proof of vaccination and that sort of thing. And you couldn't stand up for a period unless you were going to the restroom, and had to serve food. And we're a place that our menu is comprised of potato chips and different varieties. So then all of a sudden they have to serve something. It was different for us, but I think that we all made it through it, and I think that our stance and the way we handled it was appreciated. So, yeah.
That's great. Did the local community really rise to the occasion with the did you end up closed at any point during
Well, there
the
were
pandemic?
periods where it was closed. Yeah. The local community, and not just local, but the fans of what we do at Abilene and the supporters were so overwhelmingly supportive. I mean, to the point where I'd almost tear up talking about it. I'll be 69 this year. I've been going to bars since I was very young. The drinking age was 18. I've worked in bars, for many years. But I've tipped well, I think, my whole life. I've never written a check to a bar. And I've tell this story quite often. There were times during the pandemic when we were closed, and I would still go to the bar to do things and check email and make offers on bands down the road and this sort of thing. And I'd go to the mailbox, and there would be multiple envelopes saying, hang in there, here's a check for $50. A card, we support you, here's $25. There were guys that are regulars at my place. They come in once a week at happy hour, and during the shutdown, they would get together virtually, and they would Venmo like they were drinking at Abilene. Yeah. The support was phenomenal. Wow. I mean, heartwarming. It was just great.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it really was.
Wow.
And I've said over these past few years, past year and a half or two, as I approach looking at 70 years of age, and I think, and some people say, when are you going to get out of this and retire? And I know that I'll know when it's time, and I'm not there yet. The good days still outweigh the bad days, but when the pandemic ended, I thought, there's no way. We owe what we do. People like coming there. It's a safe place. It's a place that people feel a special connection because of the music, and the support was just phenomenal. And appreciated, very, very much appreciated.
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that you've really been able to create a local institution in the city. And so kind of with that, you have a career, like even before your time at Abilene, in booking and kind of doing the parts of live music that not everyone is super familiar with, certainly takes for granted, and just doesn't quite get. So tell us a little bit about your kind of background as a booking agent and what that looks like when you're really doing it in real life.
I booked shows for a great guy for a bit of time at Don Scorgi, who owned this legendary club on Andrew Street. He was there for 17 years, hung out at Scorgi's, and they built the basement, completely redid the basement and made it a live music venue. And Don was just a great guy and said, help out with booking and do some things, and gave me sort of carte blanche to book some things. I wasn't there long, but while I was there, we booked Sonny Fortune, a great jazz artist. We booked Mose Allison, a legendary player. We booked the Cramps a couple times. John Lee Hooker, got to say, and some local things like John Mooney, who now isn't local. John Mooney is a national act playing and living in New Orleans. I think that's where I met one of your most recent interviewees. Brian Williams was playing with John Mooney every week. So I got the opportunity to book this broad spectrum of great great music, and I'm really both thankful for Scorgi sort of trusting me, and appreciative of that time very much, and proud of what we brought in. And then a bunch of other people, from Nancy Marcuzzi to Rick Kaza to others, continued and took it to a much bigger level, and brought the Ramones and the Go-Go's and all these people, great reggae acts, week in and week out for years. I left there, and in '81 I started an entertainment guide called Free Time, and it was around for 30 years. I was there for 23 of them as a salesperson, and we dealt with every bar and restaurant and concert promoter, and in those days it was John Scher and Cedric Kushner and others. And it was concerts at Howler Stadium and the old War Memorial, and local places, Schnauzes and Shotzi's and Scorgi's and Casablanca, and of course Jeff Spring at Red Creek. So we sold all these people ads, and it was a fun job, and it was sort of suited to my makeup and nature, in that it was it was straight commission. And if you haven't noticed, I'm a little wound up and wired, so you could just go work, and stop and work late and deal with club owners and promoters, and it was fun. And I did that for 23 years, and left to, I had some aging parents that I left to take care of for a few years. And when that situation changed, it was time to get a job.
Yeah.
And I opened Abilene Bar and Lounge.
And Abilene had an interesting history from the time it was built. So would you tell us a little bit about, I was like fascinated learning about the background of Abilene.
I thought, when my realtor called me, I had a woman who was looking for a bar for me, and she called one day and said, I'd like you to take a look at this place. It just hit the market. And I thought I had been in every bar or restaurant or nightclub in Monroe County, Ontario County, Livingston County, for either work or pleasure. And I had never been in this one right downtown in Rochester called Tara's. It was a gay bar on Liberty Pole Way, where Abilene now is. And I met her over there and walked in and fell in love with the place. It was sort of a corner saloonish bar, and then walk out back, and the patio was just phenomenal. And people were hanging out, and I knew immediately that if the deal could be put together, which it was a tough one, but once that deal was put together, I couldn't wait to open it. It had been, the building is from 1850, so it's even older than I am. So the building's from 1850. Over the years, it's been everything from a single family dwelling. I think there was a period of time when it was a brothel.
Wow.
And it's been a bar now continuously for over 40 years.
Wow.
We've been there 16 years tomorrow. It was Tara's for over 20 years. In fact, we do a Tara's reunion. We just did one, I think, in September. And it's wonderful, like, to have so many of the old crew that enjoyed going there on a regular basis. Yeah. And in fact, there's a couple years ago, there was an LGBTQ plus walking tour of historic places in Rochester, and we were on that tour. When Tara's was in its heyday, these were, it was a different world, unfortunately, and things like pride weren't talked about openly, and so Tara's had this place, that's for sure, and we're proud to be there, and we're certainly proud to be open to everyone that comes through the doors.
Yeah, and Tara's was open during a particularly intense period for the gay community with the AIDS crisis.
Oh, sure.
And it just seems like it was a space where people could really let that go.
Yeah, and in fact, the first office of Rochester, I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly, it might be the AIDS Rochester or AIDS Rochester Coalition, but the first office created to work on that crisis was upstairs in Abilene. So upstairs in Tara's, pardon me, not Abilene, but upstairs in that building. Yeah. So the building has quite a bit of history.
It has a rich history. I thought that was amazing. When I saw that it was the first center in Rochester, I was like, what a what an iconic location you have found yourself. From roots music to iconic gay bar to household and everything in between. So with that, you now certainly have progressed past that era. You're in the Abilene era at the building, and it has had several there are several areas that I think are very interesting about the Abilene experience, which is the acts that you all book and your history of being a jazz fest venue, the Roots Stage.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I'm really interested in what it was like to be a jazz fest venue.
It was wonderful. I mean, I miss it. We were a venue for 5 years, and I had the pleasure and the honor of booking our room, and it was gracious of John Nugent and Mark Iacona, but John in particular said, here's a budget. We know what you do, and we like what you do. Book this tent.
Yeah.
And so that was 9 nights in a row, times 5 years. It was 45 shows. And to this day, people talk about how those were some of the best shows they've ever been to.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sadies for 2 nights, or for 2 shows, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, Amy LaVere Trio, just on and on and on. And they were exciting shows. And what made it great is it was sort of different than all the other Jazz Fest venues in that it was a little rowdier, a little louder, a little looser. And as soon as the second show ended each night at 11 p.m., they would file, the audience of like 500 people per show would file into Abilene, and we'd have live music starting at 11:01.
Yeah.
And it was just very exciting times.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
must have been such a
Oh, it was great.
crazy experience. Did you find that people would still go there, assuming it was a venue after?
Oh yeah, we see.
It took me a while to
sure.
realize that it was no longer a venue.
I mean, we're right around the corner. As a crow flies, we're 2 minutes from Temple,
Yeah.
and the Big Tent things. These are so close.
Right.
We certainly see spillover, and there are people to this day who that's like their pit stop, or where they begin the night and sit at the bar and plot out where they're going to go,
Right.
and come back afterward and end their night.
Wow.
There's a real great friend and customer, Lynn Boucher, and she coined the term, I don't know, 10 years ago. During the Jazz Fest, all roads lead to Abilene. And I think some people still live by that. So
Yeah.
we're proud to, we're not an official Jazz Fest venue, but we do live music every night for those 9 nights during
Wow.
Jazz Fest. And we're thrilled with the association of being downtown and part of that whole area. So.
Yeah. And it's such a vibrant time in Rochester, too. 9 nights of craziness.
Craziness. And tremendous. They just announced, yesterday was the press conference, and they announced the 2024 lineup, and it's
Really?
killer.
Oh.
I mean, everything from sort of esoteric jazz to just huge acts presented for free on Parcel 5, which is really right around the corner from
Yeah.
us. And, Los Lonely Boys, tribute to the Meters, Sheila E.
Wow.
These are all free downtown in Rochester. So that it is an exciting time.
Yeah. Wow. That's really exciting. Have you started working on what is going to be going on down in Abilene during those
Oh,
nights?
yeah.
Can you give us a sneak preview of what people may be able to look forward to?
Let me think. Yes, I've got, each year during Jazz Fest, we put on a band that used to be called the Buffalo Brass Machine. Now they're called the Brass Machine, out of Buffalo. They're so good. Probably 5 or 6 or 8 years ago, they played one. They play every year, but they played one night, and it was just rocking and raucous. And the night sort of ended, and I went up to my office to write them a check. And I came downstairs, and there was no one in the bar. I mean, there wasn't a bartender, there wasn't a customer, sort of like when I walked in here. There was no one in the place. And I thought, what in God's name is going on? I walked outside, and this is at midnight, and the band was doing that it's a big brass band. They were outside in our parking lot doing that New Orleans, second line thing, and people were just,
Wow.
so they'll be coming back. We have a great band from Buffalo, Eileen Perroni, and the Encyclopedia of Soul. There's a lot of bands. It'll be 9 nights, so yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be killer.
Check our calendar of
Absolutely.
www.abilenebarandlounge.com.
So, how did you come up with the name Abilene?
I get asked it a lot, and most of the people think it's because of this not bad, but this quirky country song by someone that I'm not sure of, and or that I'm a fan of Abilene, Texas.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Abilene, Texas. It's a song, and it's not a real upbeat sort of thing, but it's a song by Dave Alvin, and he's probably my favorite musician on earth. So, in fact, I brought Abilene. We do things at other venues that are sort of too big for Abilene under this Abilene on the Road name, and we've brought Dave and Alvin to town a few times. We've brought him to what used to be called the Downstairs Cabaret at Winton Place.
Okay.
We've brought him to a place called the Arbor Loft downtown. So we've brought Dave Alvin and his brother Phil Alvin. We've brought Dave Alvin and Jimmy Dale Gilmore and their band to the JCC a couple years ago. So any chance you get to see Dave Alvin, see him.
Cool. The only time I had heard of, the only other context I'd heard of Abilene was the Grateful Dead song "Loser."
Right.
I was wondering if that's what you're going to
No.
come up with.
Someone asked me that. In fact, yesterday, a friend of mine texted me. He's reading a biography of Jerry Garcia. And he said, reading these lyrics to "Loser," is that what Abilene is?
Yeah.
And I sent him a video of Dave Alvin and the Guilty Men doing Abilene. So, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
So, in this last 16 years, I'm sure you have had many special moments at the bar with musicians, with the people. Is there anything that stands out to you as a particularly special moment in the time that you have been there?
Too many to talk about in a half-hour interview, certainly. But yes, and before we hit a stage, we've had acts play. I think it was January 1st, 2010. Lake Street played there, and now they play 2,000 and 3,000 seat arenas.
Yeah.
I'm an especially huge fan of J.D. McPherson. J.D. has played Abilene twice.
Wow.
We've presented J.D. at Downstairs Cabaret. We presented J.D. across the street from us at the Harrow on our 10th anniversary. And J.D. is on tour right now as the lead guitarist for Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. So that connection means the world to me, and I consider him a good friend. But there's so many, both local, regional, national and international bands that have played our stage, that men and women that are friends and that whose music I'm such a huge fan of. Hayes Carl has played Abilene, and I think this coming Friday, he's playing Homer Center for the Arts. It's sold out. I wish I had a ticket and don't. But there's so many that have played over the 16 years that have provided so many good times. And there are times also when there's 10 people for a show and the music is wonderful and the camaraderie and friendships that you've built up. It might be 10 of us or 12 of us with a bar staff just in awe of what we're hearing. And then the next day, people will say, "Oh my God, I heard there was this great show." And yes,
Yeah,
go to the website.
And you weren't there.
And you weren't there. We'll try and get them back. Yeah.
Cool. How interesting. So you must get a high volume of artist inquiries. We get a high volume, and I can't imagine what you get.
Yes. Excuse me for interrupting. Yeah, it's just the emails that are constant. I'm a singer, songwriter, solo musician, in the vein of this, or then you'll get these ones where they've done no research and like, we are this great heavy metal band, and we haven't really booked too much metal over the years. In fact, maybe a band once, but you'll get these mass mailings where they send to everybody, and then there's some particular agents that we book most of their roster. There's an agency out on the West Coast. They're great people, Mongrel Music, and I think if you look at their roster over the years, we book 90% of it. I trust their judgment as to who they have on their roster, and we're a place that they like. So we've booked and continue to Big Sandy and the Fly-Right Boys, who are coming to Abilene. They book Low Straitjackets, who we're bringing to the Little Theater in May. They book Ewan Jewell. on and on and on and on. And, our musical sensibilities are very similar. I've said for years, if I had a wife and 3 kids, I probably wouldn't be running Abilene. I'd be doing something that made money. I get the opportunity and continue to be able to book a place where I like the music.
Yeah.
It's rare that I don't enjoy the music that's in the club. So I'm lucky in that regard.
Yeah, and being involved in the music venue business is one of those very interesting labors of love,
Yes.
where you realize that you are not going anywhere.
Right. Except to the grocery store, the restaurant supply store, back up to your office to answer an email, to check ticket sales, to see if there's enough fruit, do we have vodka for tonight, etc.
Yeah. So with this high volume of inquiries, and we get it as well,
Oh my
sometimes
God.
you get something and it's just kind of like somebody says, please look up our Facebook. And it's like, well, what the heck?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. So we have a lot of musician listeners. So what do you look for in an artist inquiry?
I don't want to say I resent it, but it almost seems foolhardy for an artist or to send something out saying, will you book us next Thursday or 2 Thursdays from now? We'd love to play Abilene. Okay. And then don't put a YouTube link or a Facebook link or an Instagram link or anything. It's like, how much time on earth do you think I have? As opposed to others who do it so well.
Right.
Danny, or to whom it may concern, we'd like to play 4 months from now. Here are the 3 dates. We are an Americana/roots band. We've played these other places. Please take a look at our EPK or electronic press kit.
Yeah.
Please take a look at these links of videos, and let's talk, please. That makes it easier.
It's a lot easier, especially the EPKs,
Yeah.
the online EPKs.
Yeah.
When it's just like their website is the EPK. A few artists have been really impressive with them.
Yeah.
Public Water Supply has a really cool.
I'm a huge fan of Public Water Supply.
Oh my gosh.
They get it.
They do.
And they've got a great sound, and Iggy's wonderful. And,
Oh man, that guy hustles.
Yeah.
I can't. But he must be exhausted.
Yes.
He must be absolutely exhausted. I love them.
Yeah,
They're
he and Karis are playing Abilene in, I think, at the end of May.
Okay.
I look forward to it again.
Yeah, I see them any chance I get. And they're coming out with a new album. They're gonna have their big album release party soon at Essex, I think, in a couple of
Yes.
on the 29th. Cool.
Well, as you speak of Essex, I do want to say that I've seen things evolve over the last 16 years, and the music scene in Rochester is just flourishing. It's tough for me to enjoy it because I don't leave 153 Liberty Pole Way,
Yeah.
but if I had the opportunity, there's such a vibrancy from the Roots, or jam/tribute things they do at Three Heads, to Flower City Station, to that whole expansive Fairport scene, from what Tommy does at Iron Smoke, to Faircraft Brauhaus, to B-Side, who does a great job, to McConnery's. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And then you add to the mix the wineries and cideries that provide a venue for a lot of solo and duos. It's a great time to be a music, and what you do out here. I mean, at Drumroll, what Chuck has created, it's a great time to be a music fan and a live entertainment fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited about the jam kitchen and the drum roll situation, because before that, it was a little sparse.
It was a little quiet.
Yeah, but that's great.
But I love what has been booked here, and our interests and sensibilities are very similar.
Yeah, this has been an absolutely lovely experience.
Awesome.
So we are getting close to the end of our time together. So is there anything that you would like to share? Any insights you would like to give? Any whatever? This is your big moment.
Well, I have no advice for anyone other than no, I don't have any advice for anyone. Maybe check out our schedule. We've got some wonderful acts coming. I'm highly excited about Sonny Landreth, who's one of the best guitar players in the world. We've brought him to town twice before at the JCC, which is a big room. It holds 288 people. We're doing it in Abilene, so it's going to be up close and personal. That'll be on July 20th. We have Sarah Shook, who I'm the biggest fan of. She's got a real original sound, original voice. Just came out with a new album. She's going to be at Abilene on June 10th. I'm excited about Igor and the Red Elvises, who play once a year at our place. One of the quirkiest, most fun bands. I didn't even realize when I booked them a while back that it's Eclipse Day. So April 8th with 300,000 to 500,000 more people in town. Then we open the doors at 6, and I think at 7:30 Igor hits the stage, and it's going to be fun. So there's a lot going on.
Oh my gosh, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Danny Deutsch, owner of the great Abilene in Rochester.
You're making me blush.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.